Hello and welcome to chapter 21 of the Skylark song. Robin stared down at the screwdriver in her hand and swallowed hard. She'd been living on edge for so long that she'd forgotten what it meant to really feel that surge of fear, to really believe that it was possible that you were about to die. It felt just like being strapped into a glider again. It felt fantastic. It felt like freedom. And if only she had her glider now, she could. Daring to take her eyes off the Coyote, Robin put her screwdriver back in her boot sheath and brushed her crossed fingers over her shoulder. Slowly, as soundlessly as possible, she reached inside the burlap sack, getting her hand on the control box, and then froze when she heard a soft click beside her ear. The round tip of the barrel tickled through her hair at her temple. "You give this to her?" the seneschal sneered, and Robin felt the mouth of the pistol nudge the cameo at the top of the hairpin. "And yet is too useful. If you give her that, you give us the key to your cooperation. Understand what is at stake for you if you move against me, boy. I will not hesitate." The Coyote nodded once, his features battling against the mask of his control, barely containing the snarl on his lips. He rose to his knees and crossed his hands behind his head demonstratively. The seneschal scoffed, then poked at the back of Robin's head twice with the pistol. "Ach, ach!" Desperate horror bloomed on the Coyote's face as Robin stood at the bidding of that pistol. Robin withdrew her hand, the one closest to the seneschal, slowly from the bag, raising it above her head, trusting the shadow cast by both their bodies to keep the other arm hidden. "Do not do this," the Coyote pleaded. "Please. She is not like the others, I swear to you. Spare her, and we—" "Silence! Stay!" the seneschal snarled. His grip shifted on the butt of the pistol. "Your brother is most disappointed in you." The Coyote swallowed hard, the fear on his face ratcheting up. Robin had never seen him be so open, so himself while in the presence of others. That, more than anything, sent terror shivering up her spine. "You, girl," the seneschal ordered. "Come." "No," Robin said. The seneschal hesitated, clearly not expecting her defiance. "Nema?" "Nema," she agreed, and then repeated it again. "No." The more she said it, the more powerful she felt, the more she knew that it was the right choice. "Very well." The tip of the gun brushed her cheek and then pointed downwards toward her knee. "The general only needs you alive to be able to fix the pack. I shall leave your hands as they are. However, you cannot run from us if you cannot walk." "Wait! Just wait!" Robin said, stalling, one arm still buried in the sack. She deftly wiggled her fingers to get her wrist through the strap of the control box. "Please, just wait. You're not really going to shoot me?" "Nema, what makes you think so? You are the only one who has brought us to this impasse, after all." The seneschal sniffed. Okay, Robin said, play-acting cowardice. "I'll come. I swear I'll come. Just point that somewhere else." Unseen, her hand slipped through the leather loop. Her fingers found the buttons. She met the Coyote's eyes across the darkness separating them. They were wide and sad and scared, but proud, too. Proud of her, she realized, and Robin clutched that close, jammed it into her heart. "I am sorry," she mouthed. A small, sad half-smile quirked in the corner of his lips, acknowledging what she'd finally ceded to him. No contractions. He nodded back, grim and final in a way that made Robin's guts twist. "Oh, gods," she thought suddenly. "This might kill him too. This might—" No, go. He's given you his blessing. You just need to— Omens, don't be a coward. Do it." I have a question," Robin asked, shifting backwards subtly so the tail of wings was aimed in the seneschal's direction, desperately thinking, please, please let this work. And that is. What makes you think I haven't already fixed it? She shook the sack lightly, indicating what she meant, but also to get the straps over her shoulders. Wings wasn't designed to be worn in the front of a body, but right now, Robin was willing to take that risk. It works, the seneschal asked, taking a step forward, trying to get a good look at the sack through the shadows. She couldn't see his eyes, but his surprise was written all over his posture. I sure hope so, Robin said as she slapped the button that ignited the engine. Wings rumbled, and the exhaust ports flared to life, and the seneschal screamed. Robin shot backwards, the angle of her ascent taking her up over the forest canopy and halfway across the forest itself before the spurt of inertia spluttered out and the engine went silent. For a brief, glorious second, she sailed through the night. Then she landed heavily on her back amid the dried, dead husks of a field of autumn grain, all breath woofing out of her as her stomach was driven up against her spine and the ivory hairpin jammed against her neck. She slapped at the pack's controls, and the engine spluttered to a stop. Holy rutting omens, she blurted as she saw the dark swatch through the dried soil she'd cut with her back. She was bent awkwardly against a stalk, and she gave herself to the count of 10 to catch her breath and clear her head of vertigo before she tried to move. A flare of pain in her ribs told her that she'd probably aggravated the old injury, but she breathed through it, and it faded soon enough. Then she sat up, pulled what remained of the smoldering burlap off of Wings, and inspected the pack. It looked just fine. She turned it around and strapped it herself in properly, control box on her wrist, straps across her collarbones fit snug around her waist and between her legs. In the distance, someone screamed again, but she was too far away to know which one of them it was. A chorus of flat cracks, like a cacophony of gunshots, filled the air. The seneschal's pistol had probably been caught in the wash of fire, making the ammunition go up like God's Day fireworks. The seneschal could hang for all she cared, but the coyote, I can't let him burn to death. Not like Al. Her feet were already leading her back towards him before she'd even realized she'd taken a step. But it was already too late. If she went to him, she'd be caught. And he might not even be alive anymore. The thought slammed into her guts like a fist. To have had him for just a moment, or to have thought that she had him, and then... No, she told herself, no, there's nothing you can do. You killed him. Bile filled her throat, noxious and horrible. She swallowed hard against the sudden rush of nausea. You kissed him, and then you killed him. That horrific screeching. That's the sound of him screaming. The sound of him dying, and you just... Robin bent double and emptied her stomach onto the ground. It was awful, acidic, and she heaved and sobbed at the same time, guts churning and heart cracking, even as she jammed her palms against her ears. As soon as she was able to get herself back under control, she stumbled backwards, away from the puddle of puke. She spat hard, over and over again, trying to get the sour taste out of her mouth, trying to remember, to chase the phantom memory of wine and apples that had been the coyote's kiss. His last kiss. She ran the back of her hand across her mouth, then scrubbed at her cheeks with her sleeve. Get it together, she shouted at herself. If you keep standing here like a stupid duck, they'll catch you. Don't waste his sacrifice like that. Don't waste Al's sacrifice like that. A faint orange glow bled between the trees in the distance. Behind her, a plume of black smoke had begun to blot out the stars. The sound of the soldiers and dogs was becoming audible again, along with the crackle of winter-dry timber. Go. The least you can do is trust him now. Follow the clues and hope they lead to some sort of civilization. All around her there was nothing. No one. Just open air. It didn't feel like the victory it should have. Joy warred with grief and regret. Shoving aside the tangle of feelings, she planted her feet and looked at the sky she'd so desperately missed. Feeling for the button with her free hand, she depressed the ignition slowly. Wings made an enthusiastic chugging sound. The thick leather pad against her back warmed slightly as the 2 cylinders began to bottle up their exhaust. Pressing the second button, Robin pushed off with a jump and couldn't help but whoop with elation, though it was a sodden, wet cry of triumph as the thrust from the pack kept her aloft. She pushed the second button again, and the output increased. Wings thrust her high above the treetops. Knowing herself to be practically invisible in the night, save for the glimmer of flame at the base of the exhaust ports, Robin angled her body horizontal. That faint orange glow rose and grew. With a glance at the stars to verify her direction, Robin deduced that it might be Lylon or some other large town. The city, whichever one it was far enough south of the front lines that it probably wasn't an air patrol bombing target, or else it wouldn't have been so lit up. I can lose myself in a city, she thought. Grit was in her eyes as the wind whipped the last of the tears off her face. She pulled the goggles up from around her neck so she could see where she was going, though they darkened everything considerably. Grit was in her eyes as the wind whipped the last of the tears off her face. She pulled the goggles up from around her neck so she could see where she was going, though they darkened everything considerably. Then she raised her scarred palms to the sky. Flying, without a glider, was even better than she thought it would be. It was a shame that she had no time to experiment, no time to learn the intricacies of flight, no time to play. A shame that she couldn't share this with a shame that all she could do was run. Unless she stopped running altogether. Unless she used wings as the Coyote had meant it to be used, to strike terror into the hearts of the enemy, to make them flee, to make them lose. No more running, Robin decided, shouting over the roar of the wind. You hear that, gods? You hear me, Wings? We're not going to run, and we're not going home. Not until the job is done. If the only way I'm getting home is if this war is over, and if Saskwya can't end it. She looked over her shoulder at Wings. And if he can't be here to do it with me, then I will running well do it myself! Curious of what would happen, Robin deployed the blades of the pack. Her flight stabilized slightly, but even more fantastic, the vibration of the air as it passed over the steel made the blades hum. It was a sweet, clear, and cyclical chord, like bird song, like a Skylark song. Pumped up on the elation of escape in the affirmation of a choice well made, Robin hummed along with Wings as she flew. And the bees shall follow me home, they sang together. One voice pure and clean, the other crackled with a grief she wouldn't allow herself to feel, not until it was over, not until she was safe. Together, it was almost loud enough to cover the sound of her heart breaking.
Give up when you're down. Fly as long as you can.